So first off, I'd like to introduce the alternate delivery division leads that will be given the updates that we've made on these programmatic documents. And let me change this out of here to get me off of here. Okay. So, as I introduced this morning before the break, we have Joe Adams. Joe earned his bachelor's degree in business administration from St. Edward's University, and he also has his PMP from the Project Management Institute. Joe's been a project manager with the Research and Technology Implementation Division and is now part of the Alternate Delivery Division here at TxDOT. Beau Buchanan earned a bachelor's degree in engineering from Texas Tech and started his 25-year career with the department in design at the Childress District Office. He has been a project manager for the Alternate Delivery Division for the last 15 years. And then finally, it'll be Amanda Worden. Amanda earned her bachelor's degree in civil engineering from UTSA and worked for TxDOT for over 14 years in the areas of planning, design, bridge, construction, maintenance, emergency management, and traffic operations, all within the San Antonio district. After a short break, she accepted a position with the Alternative Delivery Program in 2021 as a deputy project manager. So here to start us off with this programmatic update is Joe. Take it away.
All right, thanks, Charles. All right, so this is some exciting stuff here. We're going to talk about contract documents. This is going to be riveting for you guys. All right. Well, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for reviewing some of the changes that we've made to the design build contract programmatic documents. It has been a busy year for us, and we've definitely made a lot of changes. So for this part of the presentation, I'm going to walk you through changes that were specific to the design build programmatic contract documents. We'll look at a breakdown of the changes that were made since last year, and I'll go through a quick review of the programmatic process, explain some of the more noteworthy changes, and then I've got a summary of the key takeaways. So since we were last here, we've had more than 700 changes that we made to version 4.0, which is what we presented virtually last year. Most of those changes were made to our design bid specifications, followed by changes to the pre-award submittal requirements, and then some of the other changes were more administrative, procedural process related. When we last met, we discussed changes to the 4.0 documents. Since then, we have published two versions, version 4.1 and version 4.2, and we're in the final stages of approving version 4.3. So today's discussion will be focused on those three versions, 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3. I wanted to share this slide to provide a better understanding of where the changes come from, the sources that go into making these changes. Most of the changes that are requested and ultimately approved, they come from our alternative delivery projects during the procurement phase and lessons learned once we wrap the procurements up. But we also receive recommended changes from TxDOT divisions and districts during the working group and statewide meetings. Additionally, our federal partners with FHWA review and comment on the documents. And for the last several revisions, we've had industry subcommittee meetings to review and comment to help produce a very collaborative and cooperative set of documents. Each time a change to the programmatic documents is recommended, we do follow a very standard process for getting the items reviewed, discussed, edited, and approved. We have weekly working group meetings where subject matter experts present the proposed changes and the items are refined. Those items then go to a bi-weekly or monthly statewide working group, which includes our division and our district representatives. All items that are agreed move forward and then are approved internally by the ALD division administration and then distributed to FHWA and industry for review and comment and concurrence. From there, a draft of the new programmatic version is submitted to our deputy director for signature, and at that point, the new version is formally approved and published. All right, so let's look at some of those changes. As I mentioned earlier, most of the changes that we made for versions 4.1 and 4.2 and 4.3 came from the design build specifications. These revisions were made in consultation with our divisions and FHWA subject matter experts. The primary reason for having so many changes to the specs were to better align to current TxDOT practices, the referenced manuals, policies, and statutes, and to just improve the general flow of the document itself. We have completed updates to 17 of the 20 design bid spec items. The next programmatic version will include the remaining changes. We'll talk about that a little bit more at the end of the presentation. But those will include the changes that we have in store for item 16, the geotech and pavement, item 20, drainage, and item 21, structures. For the submittal requirement changes, we do have quite a few updates. The utility owner commitments, we're now allowing requests by proposers for TxDOT approval of pre-proposal utility owner commitments to be submitted by email. They're not just, they don't have to come in writing, so that's definitely going to streamline things. For the ATCs and draft ATC materials, we added some language for the electronic submittal of 3D and multimedia files as exhibits to the ATC submittals. And for draft ATC materials to be uploaded to the SharePoint proposer team SharePoint sites. So again, just trying to make things a little bit more streamlined. For the 3D files and multimedia, we're requiring the submittal of 3D files, and we have created an option for proposals to include multimedia files in their proposals. The Exhibit M and proposer work product. Exhibit M allows for Exhibit M, which is the exhibit for proposer surveys, investigations, and technical documents to be submitted both in hard copy and digitally. We are requesting 1 hard copy and 2 digital copies. The price proposal changes, we're no longer requesting a hard copy, just digital copies in separate files on solid state drives. And for the ITP form P2, this is the design build price breakdown form. We did add some additional categories and subcategories just to provide better clarification in the price proposal breakdown itself. Some of the other changes, these are kind of the administrative procedural changes. We talked earlier this afternoon about the delay deductible and the aggregate cap. So we had the tool, we understood it, but we didn't have any language, so we wanted to create the delay deductible, the language and the process for practical use of the method. So that's now in place. The RID reliance has been moved to the proposal due date. So the RIDs are the reference information documents. The change clarifies that the DB contractor may rely on or will be provided relief based on certain RIDs provided to the contractor prior to the proposal due date instead of the execution date. So that just, in the sequence of events, it just made a little bit more sense to move that to the proposal due date. Some of the changes to the quality control procedures. We made several improvements to the designs and plans associated with the release for construction documents, including the steps for TxDOT concurrence and the ability to track and incorporate minor changes using the RFI process. Lastly here is just adding some language for the virtual meetings. We added language to allow for one-on-one meetings to be held virtually, as well as permitting the dispute review panel meetings to be conducted by video conference as long as we have mutual agreement from all parties. Some of the most impactful changes we made came from our collaborative subcommittee meetings with industry. And you can see a couple of them here. The changes regarding notice to proceed include permitting districts with flexibility to specify additional activities that the DB contractor may commence after the issuance of NTP1, but prior to the NTP2. We deleted some provisions requiring DB contractor to pay a daily fee for early issuance of NTP2, and it clarifies that issuance is at TxDOT's discretion. We added some requirements for DB contractor to have fully executed subcontracts prior to permitting subcontractor to perform work. And we added a requirement that the preliminary project baseline schedule includes a proposed schedule of values for the work authorized by NTP1. For the non-conforming work changes, here we modified the method for calculating the reimbursement amount that's owed to TxDOT when TxDOT accepts non-conforming work. The reimbursement's either the value associated with the impacts needed to provide compensation to all affected persons, including TxDOT, or the amount reasonably allocated to perform, or reasonably allocated to the non-conforming work itself. It also clarifies that TxDOT's failure to provide notice of non-conforming work does not constitute acceptance of the non-conforming work. All right. So the last few slides I went through, that was the highlight of the changes that we had for 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3. For the next release, which we're calling version 5.0, we do have a few things slotted for that. We're anticipating this in the first quarter of next year, expecting to complete the design build spec changes. Those changes, again, they should be similar to what we had with the other specs. We're also looking at non-compliance points. We're still in heavy conversation with this topic, trying to figure out what the best practice is programmatically speaking. Non-compliance points isn't necessarily a one-size-fits-all, and it doesn't work for everyone. So we're working to be pretty creative on this and make sure we've got project-specific flexibility in the language. For ESOC, or early start of construction, the changes will clarify the requirements for ESOC and identify the specific elements eligible for ESOC packages. And then we also have some changes to our hazmat language. Under certain circumstances, phase 2 environmental assessments are eligible for risk sharing, schedule delay, relief, and project overhead. All right, so wrapping things up for this part of the programmatic updates, I just wanted to provide a one-pager for everybody to summarize the key points of the design build contract portion. Again, this is kind of the cheat sheet. So if you just want to skip ahead and you can just take this one slide and say, okay, these are the things that we can take away from the programmatic design build contract, that's what this is for. So that's everything I have for the design build contract programmatic document changes. Thank you all again for your attendance. I'm going to pass it over to Beau Buchanan with the Alternative Delivery Division to share some operations and maintenance programmatic changes. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Joe. Yeah, at this point, we're going to move to some C&C document updates in this part of it. So here's kind of what we're going to cover. Amanda and myself will be kind of tag teaming this short presentation. I'll be covering the first couple of items on our agenda there, and then I'll hand it over to her to cover some of our key updates in our programmatics. The presentation is actually to present updates to our CMA programmatic documents, but before we get into that, I'm just going to give you all a brief overview of some of our TxDOT agreements that we have used in our design build program. This first slide here, as you can see, this is kind of identifying what our risks are on this, and you can see it shows the various types of our maintenance contracts, and as you can see, the scope and term length, they vary by each type of contract, and the shorter the term and the smaller the scope, the more risk that's transferred over to the contractor. And so, as you can see, a performance warranty has a maximum of 5-year term from final. I said more, less risk. So the smaller length, smaller scope, less risk to the DB contractor. Our performance warranties, as you can see, they have a 5-year term from the final acceptance, and those cover just the capital items, such as the pavement and the structure, the drainage, and the earthwork. And the next one is our CMAs, our capital maintenance agreements. Those are up to 15 years, so 3 5-year terms that are renewable. And the same as the performance warranty, it just covers the capital items, the pavement, the structure, the drainage, and the earthwork. And then the next we have the COMA, and the risk is going more and more to the design contractor as we go down. The COMAs are also 15 years, 3 5-year terms, but on a COMA, the comprehensive maintenance agreements, that includes all right-of-way to right-of-way, so full routine maintenance, all maintenance within the facility. And then the DBOM on there, design, build, operate, and maintain, those are 25-year term length contracts. And just like the COMA, it's right-of-way to right-of-way as well. So it includes all the capital elements, calls everything from right-of-way line to right-of-way line. And then there on the last one there on the bottom, the highest risk to a DB contractor would be the concession projects, and those have a 52-year term length, and they also include everything right-of-way to right-of-way. The concessions are a little bit different from all the other contracts in there because of the finance component, but I'm not going to get into all that in this short time that we have for the presentation. I will point out that the longer-term contracts, such as our CDAs and DBOMs, are no longer considered right now for future TxDOT projects. The performance warranty and the CMAs are the 2 more viable options for TxDOT right now. Okay, on this slide, this shows all the projects, active projects TxDOT has right now in our program, and they're split out by the different maintenance agreement types that they have. And you can see those orange ones are all the projects we have in O&M. The dark blues are the projects in construction. The light blue are in procurement right now at this time. So on the far right there of your slide, that COMA project, SH360 is the only project we have active right now, the only active COMA project that TxDOT has, and it's currently being transferred over to North Texas Toll Authority, the NTTA. I think they're still wrapping up a few things, so that transition hasn't been completed at this time, but that should be coming soon. The next one over there, the DBOM. We only have one DBOM in our program right now, and that's the Harbor Bridge down in Corpus Christi, the Harbor Bridge replacement. And of course, it's still under construction. And then CMA is the most common agreement type that we have in our program. We have a total of 14 right now. And so we have 4 in procurement, we have 4 in construction, and we have a total of 6 that are currently in operations and maintenance. And I won't go into the list of those. I think they're all pretty readily available on our TxDOT website. You can go through and look at that. And we also have on the CMA on the far left, we have a total of, concessions. We have a total of 5 concession projects right now. One of them, the NT3, is the only one that's in construction right now. The other 4 are in operations and maintenance, with the most recent one opening last November, I believe, which was the 288 in Houston. So the rest of the presentation, we'll just focus on the CMA contract document updates only. Here we're just kind of breaking out an overview of the maintenance responsibility allocation between TxDOT and the DB contractor, and this is just under a CMA. So as you can see, under a CMA scope, you know, the contractor is mostly responsible for the maintenance and repair work of just the capital items, the pavement, the structures, the drainage, and the earthwork. And then everything else as far as maintenance is on TxDOT to maintain. The routine maintenance, the incident response and management, roadside management, all that stuff is left up to TxDOT. So basically what you have is a DB contractor and TxDOT are sharing responsibilities of maintenance on the same facility is basically what you have. Okay, here we're going to break out the different components of a CMC. And this is going to kind of give you a quick overview of that. And we'll kind of reference some of the stuff which Amanda will go over a little bit further in a few minutes on some of the additional updates that we had to that. But the CMC is actually broke out into the three components of the CMA, the general conditions, and the specifications. So the CMA typically includes project-specific contract requirements, such as the scope, pricing, and security mount, lane rental charges, non-compliance points, et cetera. The CMA general conditions, which is items 1 through 8, that typically includes universal provisions that would apply to all design build projects with a related oversight, and the general scope, the project management and control, payment, invoicing and processing, legal and prosecution language, et cetera, stuff like that. And then the CMA specification 9, that would include more technical related items to the maintenance, such as the defect recording, maintenance repair, maintenance management, performance requirements, reporting, and submittals. And then here, I'm fixing to hand it over to Amanda, but I just wanted to give you kind of a timeline. Joe had mentioned just previously, right before me, about the timeline on the different versions. Our versions, our CMC programmatics are with the same ones that he was mentioning, but Amanda's going to give us some updates on these. As you can see, version 4.0 was September of 2020. That's as far back as we're going to go on our updates on this, and as you can see, version 4.3 has not yet been officially released yet, but we hope to release that pretty soon. At this time, I'll hand it over to Amanda and let her go over some additional updates. Thank you.
Thank you, Beau. So moving on to our next slide, you might be wondering in your head, where do these programmatic updates come from, right? So the sources of these updates come from lessons learned, they come from industry, they come from district feedback, as well as best practices, new standards, and new specifications. These updates also include simplifying contract language and streamlining it, as well as making sure we have the risk optimized for that allocation to get a better price. So the first area we're going to look at the key updates is reporting requirements, which is item 9, section 9.8. The DB contractor is no longer required to submit an annual report. Quarterly maintenance service reports are still required. This helps further reduce the administrative work and unnecessary cost. The next area we're going to look at is maintenance personnel, which is item 9, section 9.2.3. So initially, our language was unclear, I guess you could say. So this update clarified that the DB contractor shall make all personnel available on an as-needed basis. You might be wondering, who are these personnel, right? So that's the maintenance manager, the maintenance quality manager, as well as the maintenance safety manager. And you can see a brief description of each of these roles on the screen. Moving to our next slide, it's everyone's favorite, IRI requirements, right? So pavement is a key maintained element for CMA. It accounts for a large percentage of maintenance cost. As you can see, TxDOT adopted a tiered approach. This lessens the requirements for future maintenance terms, because everyone knows over time, as time increases, our pavement deteriorates. This slide is a demonstration of the different terms. So as you can see on the screen, we have term 1 is from final acceptance to 5 years, which includes years 1 through 5. Term 2 is for an additional 5 years, which includes years 6 through 10. And term 3 is for an additional 5 years, which includes years 11 through 15. This slide on the screen currently demonstrates the difference of the IRI and how it lessens going from term 1 down to term 3. So I want to make one thing clear. If you'll look on the screen, you'll see text that's in black with 1 asterisk mark. That's for the main lanes, direct connectors, and ramps. The text you see in blue with the 2 asterisks is for all other roadways. So moving back to term 1, the IRI is equal to or less than 85 per mile or 95 for concrete, and that is in term 1. As we move down to term 2, the IRI is less than equal to 95 or 105 for concrete. And as we move into term 3, the IRI is less than or equal to 120 miles, and that's for all roadways. Continuing on with the IRI requirements, additional notes were added to address the tiered thresholds. Issues identified in one term must be addressed to meet the term's requirements. So you cannot carry an identified issue from one term to the next. If an issue is identified in term 1 and then you move into term 2, you don't get to follow the term 2 requirements. You would have to abide by the higher standard, which was the term 1. TxDOT is hoping this change will further reduce the maintenance cost for future CMAs. The next area we're going to look at for the key updates is maintenance pricing. CMA General Condition Item 5, maintenance price is made up of general maintenance price plus a renewal work price. The general maintenance price is a fixed monthly payment that assumes all costs for overhead and miscellaneous maintenance. It excludes renewal work for asphalt pavement. The pavement renewal work is included in the separate renewal work price. We also removed the general maintenance max payment caps and changed the pricing escalation index from construction cost to construction cost index, and that was from CPI, since CCI is better suited for the scope of the CMA. The next area of the key updates was bridge inspection, which is item 9, section 9.7.1. The DB contractor is no longer responsible for evaluating the structure damage during incident response. This change reflects that TxDOT is in the best position providing this resource. Okay, our next area of key updates is temporary repair for Cat 1 defect. Before we move into this update, I want to talk to you a little bit about what a Cat 1 defect is. A defect can be classified as a Cat 1 defect if it represents an immediate or imminent health safety hazard to users or road workers. If there is a risk of immediate or imminent structural failure or deterioration, as well as a risk of damage to a third party's property, or a risk of damage to the environment. Cat 1 defects shall be mitigated within 24 hours to restore traffic. Temporary repair must be completed within the first 24 hours. So moving back to the updates that were associated with these key updates, the meeting between the DB contractor and TxDOT is no longer required. During initial response, due to the urgency of the matter, TxDOT will notify the DB contractor if temporary repair is not completed within the first 24 hours. TxDOT may also elect to perform such immediate repair upon notification. So basically, TxDOT has the right to perform the repair immediately upon giving that notification to the DB contractor. The next area for temporary repair for Cat 1 defect, if a Cat 1 defect was not addressed within the first 24 hours, the DB contractor shall provide to TxDOT the cause of the delay as well as the plans to move forward. The next area is the lane rental charge provisions, which is CMA Exhibit 8. We added a shoulder category for both the main lanes and the direct connector. As well as, you can see for low volume roadways, lane rental charges will no longer be charged during low volume periods. In regards to lane rental charge provision, we removed the requirement to have a minimum of one lane open during low volume periods. The lane rental fees will be assessed only if you have travel lanes closed and the shoulder closed as well. Okay, moving on, our next area of key updates is non-compliance point provision. So non-compliance events occur when the DB contractor fails to perform and breaches of contractual obligations take place. Simplified, so this update simplified the non-compliance event table. It consolidated NCE categories as well as deleted other NCE events. It revised certain cure periods to 10 days and revised existing NCE to cover all systems maintained by DB contracts. You might be wondering, what areas could that be, right, to cover all systems? That includes the maintenance management system, ECMS, and non-compliance database. In regards to the non-compliance point revision, it also clarified that the DBC required to take action to prevent a non-Cat 1 defect from becoming a Cat 1 defect. It created new categories for maintenance services, project management safety, as well as commercial and legal requirements. And to give you an example, maintenance services are carried out in a manner to prevent any hazard to workers or the general public. The project management safety, maintenance services carried out with the maintenance management plan, the maintenance safety plan, as well as the quality management plan. Commercial and legal requirements, including obtaining all required government approvals and permits complying with third parties. In summary, Beau covered the maintenance agreements, and you learned that they varied in both length and scope. You learned that the most common of these maintenance agreements is the CMA. CMC documents are comprised of 3 key documents, and that's the CMA general conditions, as well as the CMA specifications. TxDOT and the DBC share maintenance responsibilities. Then we got into talking about the key updates. So in conclusion, we covered the key updates in regards to reporting requirements, in regards to maintenance personnel, in regards to IRI requirements, in regards to maintenance pricing, as well as bridge inspection, temp repair for Cat 1 defects, lane rental charge provisions, and non-compliance point provisions. Thank you for your time, and on the screen you will see the latest programmatic documents can be found at the link that's on the screen.